What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the More Than a Side Hustle podcast, where we help 9-to-5ers create more impact, income, and influence outside their jobs. And hopefully today is no different. My name is Anthony.
And I'm Jamaica. Thank you for coming back week after week. We ask that you are subscribing and sharing and liking or doing one of those things, letting people know we are here, sharing with your family and friends. We've been doing this for over 2 years, so we appreciate those that have been tuned in from the very beginning. Maybe this is your first episode listening to us. Thank you regardless for tuning in.
Yeah, and if this is your first episode, don't go and subscribe. Don't go and share. Let us provide value to you first. And at the end of the episode, if you felt like we did our job, that's your way of saying thank you. So we appreciate everyone for tapping in.
You can do it before, honestly.
You guys can do it before.
You don't got to wait, in my opinion.
I want to give you guys value. So if you want to wait to the end and be like, I don't know these guys from a hole in the wall. I want to get some value first. So,
and maybe if this episode isn't value to you, there are many others that I'm sure can provide value.
I don't think they'd be coming back at that point.
Huh?
They wouldn't. I wouldn't come back.
If you're like one episode doesn't provide value?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a podcast listener like that. So you would tell me. So if one episode you listened to for someone, you ran into them somehow, and that one episode you didn't give value, you wouldn't listen to any other one of theirs or see the title of any other one of their episodes to see if they would interest you?
Maybe not. But
maybe not.
If they were listening, if they were brand new and they're listening, I would have tuned out by now. Like,
okay.
What y'all talking about here? But nah, let's get to the game. So, number one, what are we talking about today?
Well, we are going to talk about an experience that we just had in Vegas about a week and a half ago that we are very thankful for. That's really what the episode is about. Before we jump into that, we did want to highlight one of our students or student couple, essentially, that they hit 100K in the business. And so we wanted to congratulate them on that and most likely get them on the podcast to do a testimony and talk through that. But for right now, just congratulate them on hitting that 100K in under a year.
Yeah, we visited them out in Vegas, and it was a dope conversation. And I think it's even more impactful when you can see the transformations that you're helping people get in real life. So if you're brand new here or you're not, we help people start remote cleaning businesses, meaning you build your business and you go out and kind of do what you want to do with it. But the purpose of it was just to help people create income outside their job. So they're two 9-to-5ers, busy professionals, and they just started their remote cleaning business about a year ago, and they just hit 6 figures in exactly 12 months. Being able to see their exact journey going from, and I think we interviewed them on our podcast earlier.
We have. When they first started, I think the first
launched.
month, they hit like 5K in their first month.
Like 20 clients in the first month or something like that.
Something like that, and that was in 2023. And so now they came back a year later, hitting 100K, still working it, still using the blueprint to make sure that they get where they want to be, and yeah, they're killing it.
Yeah, if you guys want to know more about that, you can check out cleaningbusinessuniversity.com, where we help people start remote cleaning businesses without cleaning any houses. And I think the most impactful part was that we did about 800, what was it? I forgot the number it was, but it was like a couple hundred cleanings, and I didn't have to go to a client's house. I didn't have to go quote anybody in person, and I'm literally running this business from my phone. They went on vacation, and they told us about their vacation in Jamaica, and they told our community about that, and they were able to run their business.
Yeah, that's really the best part of it. Like, you don't have to be in a specific place for your business to run. So that's the exciting part. So shout out to Jasmine and Quay. Congratulations again on hitting that 100K. If you share with us, we will congratulate you as well. Some students may be listening like, oh, I've done that, and maybe it wasn't communicated to us. So that's the other part of us. If we don't
know, how can we support?
Exactly. If you share with us, we are more than happy to kind of just highlight your journey and say thank you, and once again, congratulations. But before we hop into the experience, we had a conversation, which is kind of a sidebar, of recently, O.J. Simpson, if you don't know who he is, I don't know where you're living, recently passed away. And we were just talking about, is there another, or we were way too young, but is there a case that was so big like that in our lives recently, or as adults or growing up after his case? I was saying no, because he was a celebrity. That's what made it such a big deal. And the world, or America, was torn on, the outcome. You see these videos of people sitting in community centers. I don't know why they wasn't at work, but you see people sitting down waiting for the verdict, and like maybe 60% of the room is excited, 40% is like pissed, just sitting there. I'm like, thankfully, we don't have people going around doing that, but I don't know any other case that would compare to that at this point when it comes to a celebrity doing something of that magnitude. essentially. And then I was like, oh, maybe like a Tupac. You're like, no, that's too. That's no,
not. I would say not on a celebrity. When you brought the question to me, and I really thought about it, I didn't automatically think about a celebrity, but I was thinking about a case that had everyone glued to their TVs was like around the Black Lives Matter movement when
right.
People were essentially getting killed, and
you were thinking more of black and white.
Not black or white. I was thinking about people being glued to their TVs, no matter black or white or white, black or black, whatever it is. People being glued to their TVs, waiting for that verdict. So it's on in your office, it's on in a church, it's on in a conference room, it's on everywhere.
Twitter, everywhere you
that
can
would be
find
the
it.
only case that I think about that kind of had everyone kind of glued to their TVs, not, around that same type of thing. So
that same type of atmosphere, I guess. But he, condolences to him and his family, but he's went on and his name will live on for not necessarily being a football player, for the glove not fitting, essentially.
And what's crazy about social media is that there's going to be people out there who don't even know that he was
a football player. Yeah, like Ice-T.
Like Ice-T.
Ice-T has that conversation. He's like, there's a whole new generation that does not know I was a rapper. They just know that I'm on SVU.
SVU as a cop.
Which was anti his life.
Ice-T as a rapper versus Ice-T as a SVU detective.
SVU detective.
There are people out there who have no idea that his music was extremely graphic.
But I think being able to pivot, I mean, not necessarily with OJ, but being able to pivot is a good thing sometimes. You don't have to stay where you started and doing other things. You know what I mean? Like at some point, maybe people don't even know Beyonce had Destiny's Child. I mean, who knows? Depending on your age, you may not recognize that or realize that that's where she started.
And even if you compare it to us, like when we started our journey, we were just talking about debt freedom, and now people don't even know us for that. They know us for the cleaning business, and
exactly.
Maybe in a couple of years, people don't know us for the cleaning business. Maybe it's something else. So it's about
people change.
It's about adjusting to the times, adjusting to the narratives, and kind of creating your own journey at that point.
Yep. But right now we are in the season of people knowing us for a cleaning business, and we got flued out or asked to come to Vegas to speak with Jobber. Can you explain what Jobber is for some people that may be like, what is that?
Yeah, so we were invited to speak on their podcast called Masters of
Home Services.
Got a hat back here. And Jobber essentially is a customer relationship management system, one of the largest platforms in the local service business space. So whether you have a cleaning business or whether you have a lawn care business or whether you have construction or plumbing, it allows you to manage your customer invoices, send out automations, things like that. And they essentially invited us on their platform. So it's literally one of the largest. So if you think about, I don't know.
Oh, what's to compare it?
Yeah, what would I compare it to? So think about whatever you do in your life, and this is like the top of the top, top three in that area. So they invited us out to talk about our experience, how we run our business, and also how does that fit into our family. So we did 2 episodes, but talk about I want to talk about the experience as a whole.
Well, it was honestly our first time. No, it's not our first time on a podcast. Let me rephrase this. As you know, we've been on many podcasts. It's our first time that everything like expenses were paid for us when it came to us doing an event in any capacity, if you will. So that was exciting. One, for them to even consider us was also inside like, what made you think about us? Obviously, there's other cleaning business people out there. Obviously, there's other people in the local service business. And I think this was their 3rd season that they're recording for, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that feeling, it felt good to be recognized because technically, we hear sometimes, not all the time, from students of progress that they've made from the course that we put out. But it feels like they are at our level, basically. Like we're never really around other local service business people. We are mostly around other entrepreneurs, if you will, but we don't really have a community of other local service business people that we can speak to about other things or what they're doing in their business and that type of stuff. So I think that part of it felt really good to be included in that group versus just the entrepreneurial group that we're generally in or coaching group that we're generally in.
And if you know anything about our story, it's non-traditional when it comes to our cleaning business. So it's kind of in some places, in some walks of life, it's kind of shunned upon to have a business where you're not actually you're teaching people how to do what you essentially never done. Like we've never cleaned a home, but you're teaching people how to clean homes. And we're like, well, we're not teaching people how to clean homes. We're teaching them how to run a business where you have people who actually go out and clean homes, and those are the trained professionals. But we got some experiences, and we're going to be reflecting on what it was like to be invited to speak on a platform by job or Masters of Home Service. So number one, I think the title of the show alone is called Masters, and it was truly humbling to be on a platform surrounded by other experts. Being in a room, being around true experts and masters of what they do, we never take the opportunity lightly. So what would be your thoughts on that?
So, yeah, I think we never take the opportunity lightly. I can honestly say that prior to us, we started our business in 2017, and then mostly speaking about it on a social platform, maybe from then really kicked up in gear 2020, 2019, 2020. Prior to us, I have not seen anyone, Black, white, Indian, anyone speaking about the cleaning business in this capacity about remote cleaning businesses. Does that mean it didn't exist? No, I'm not saying we're the founders of this. Don't go changing my words now.
You gotta be careful too, because people gonna take that clip and run with him like, oh, they thought.
I just said, if you continue listening to the full clip,
They won't.
they won't, exactly. That I haven't seen people talking about it in a social platform. There's a difference. Not saying people weren't speaking about it. So I think that, and now I've seen other people out there speaking about it, because like I said, we didn't invent this, obviously. But for them to recognize us, it is humbling for them to say, hey, we see what you're doing. We see the work that you're doing, and notice it after, 4 or 5 years of putting in that work, which is a reminder for people. After the 4 or 5 years of putting in that work, it is very humbling. It's exciting. And hopefully it continues to open more doors for us in other platforms that we may not have thought of, but they seek us out.
And going back to that title where it says Masters, that was another humbling part where you're on a platform where you're talking to, these are people who are masters at their craft, masters at the very highest level, whether it be any local service business. So it was truly humbling to be considered for a platform where they're only talking to the top of the top masters. Now, I'm not saying we're the best or the only, but to be even mentioned in the same room as other people, which is absolutely amazing. So that would be number one. Number two, there are talented people in this world, and everyone has the ability to do what they're good at. And I say so many pieces had to come together to make that experience happen.
Yeah. While we were there, we met other people. We met someone in the window washing industry in like the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey. We met someone that had a lawn. Roofing. So it really was interesting, because we always say this business model can work in any business, any service-based business. And so we just went out for fellowship, tacos, and just had conversations around, what are you doing in your business? And, oh, wow, didn't think about that. And what am I doing in my business? And that part of it is truly, because when we speak, factually, we've had coaches, mindset coaches, we've had people that coach us on the coaching side of it. But really, when it comes to the business specific side of a local service business, we haven't really had people that we've had consistently. So this also feels like it just opens that door to have those conversations with people about what we're actually doing in this side of the business. Because, we have multiple business in this side of the business. When it comes to our cleaning business specifically, it opens those doors for us, which then can open those doors for our students, for the knowledge that we get and we decide to pass on as well.
One part you had mentioned was being around those other experts. And I think sometimes it's kind of intimidating when you have people who've been doing this for, they were doing it for decades.
It was like 20, 30 years. And I'm like, oh, okay.
20, 30 years. We're talking about grandfather. We're talking about father. We're talking about.
And everybody's in the business.
Everybody is in the business. And we're like, we're talking about first generation entrepreneurship here.
Yeah, it's the first time. Yeah.
And a lot of our people are, especially over the last couple of years, are first generation entrepreneurs. And we don't have that longevity or lineage to go down to, because we see these businesses as like, it's a cleaning, it's a lawn care, it's a plumbing, and we don't have anything to pass down to our kids. So that's something else that kind of was like, wow. She was like, she's like, my father works in this, my family works in this, my aunts, and there was a picture of them like in the office or something. I'm like, wow, that's like really the whole family.
That's in the family
office.
Business.
We're not talking about family
business.
We're not talking about family in the room like this. We're talking in an office space, and we're talking about a couple hundred.
You do this, you do that.
Yeah.
But I think it also just shows the different ways that you can run business, right?
Absolutely.
For us, we have always said that the cleaning business was and is like a stepping stone for us. It allows us, first of all, it was our introduction to entrepreneurship. It was our introduction to business, right? And it has allowed us to do a lot more. Would the cleaning business ever be our only thing? At this point, not at this time, right? But if it is our only thing, what does that look like? And so meeting people that the business, this is what we do. This is our 9 to 5, our business, and seeing our side of it is just just opening your eyes to different ways that you can run your business. You can be all in. I would consider ourselves all in as well, but just not as much as it's, this is the only thing we do. So that was important and impressive to see as well, just the differences and how they manage that and family and what it looks like if a family's involved and boundaries and all those things were part of the conversation.
That was a good conversation where we have a lot of similarities when it comes to just other family-owned businesses. And it's not just the cleaning business side, just you have your husband and you have the wife in the same business, and it's like,
how you balance it?
How do you turn it off? It's like, I tell my husband this, so I tell my wife this. It's like, yeah, we do the same exact thing. They just do it. They've been doing it for quite some time, so it was good to be surrounded by other people. But then also the team there was absolutely, I think, now no shade to any other show we've been on, but this was the most. I mean, this is also the top.
This would be the biggest. So biggest is relative, right? Because it depends.
The biggest name.
Biggest name. Some people would say numbers make it biggest, but a biggest name, and everything was seamless. Some podcasts we go on, they just they'll contact us and say this is the time or date. We'll show up and we kind of sit down and roll. This one, there was a lot of back and forth, just getting logistics together. Also, I mean, we've flown for other podcasts as well. We had to fly and hotel accommodations, all that type of stuff, but also us being prepared on both sides of questions ahead of time so that you're aware. You know how like the celebrities, they go in knowing what question going to be asked when they sit down there. No surprises here. So like having all of that in place, the team over communicating, make sure you're okay. So it was really a seamless experience with the Jobber, and we were very thankful and communicated that to them as well. The person we were working with, she's like, I saw you had an announcement, congratulations. And so they were also very in tuned and prepared with looking at our social platforms, because if you don't know us personally, that's how you get to know us. That's how you know more about what we do, what we say, how we act. Do we align with your brand? Do we not? And that's where you can get that information. They did their homework. And so that was impressive.
Yeah, that team was super, super sharp. And the host of the show, Adam, super, super bright dude. And the thing about it, I literally, we had a conversation. And I was like, dude, you are super talented. I'm like, have you done this before? He's like, no, like hosting. He's like, no. He tells a story about how he got there. I'm not going to share his story. But I think the part about it is that he took a shot on him. They took a shot on him. He took a shot on himself, and he's doing absolutely amazing. So sometimes you just got to take a shot and see where it lands. The other thing was, it also puts things in perspective too. We were talking about social media at one point, and they're like, yeah, you guys have a huge following. And we was like, I guess to the local service businesses we do, but in terms of everything else we do and where we want to be, that's not where we want to be. So we're
like
always,
a mindset thing.
It's always levels, but then there's always more. They're like, I would love to be where you want to be. And it's like, I'm beyond where we want to be, like mentally. So it's like, how do you get to that next level? But then always reminding yourself that there are people who are looking to get to where you are today. So super important.
And so number 3, timing, and we say only God. Like God really planned this. The event was not going to happen if this did not happen, if they didn't ask us to come out on the specific week.
Because the eclipse made this happen.
The eclipse made this happen. Jobber made this happen simply because, if you don't know, we're from New York, but we live in Dallas. We don't have any family here with us. And so now we don't have our full-time nanny. We use babysitters, which means we're not comfortable with our daughter staying with them overnight, even if they can do that, but not at this time. She's in school. We wouldn't be able to bring her, not because of school, because when we were recording the podcast, who's going to be watching her? That was the biggest thing. Like, what is she going to be doing? So it was a matter of figuring out if we had anyone that could come down to stay with her while we went to Vegas to do this recording. And one of my friends wasn't able to do it, work reasons, and so we're like, we about to have to tell them no. First opportunity where things are getting paid, we're like, oh, we about to have to tell them no, and then realized that my godmother and her sons were coming down for the solar eclipse. So we were like really in passing of each other. We were in Vegas Sunday to Tuesday. She was in town Sunday to Tuesday. Yeah. Between working her schedule of the plan she had with solar eclipse, and the babysitters getting involved, helping to pick her up from school. That's what made this possible. And once again, we said only God made this happen on this week. Because if it was any other week, the answer would have been no. We can't make it.
Absolutely.
Basically, or we could make it, but somebody got to watch the child outside of the studio, and she's gonna cry.
I mean, then maybe that would have worked because it would have been an hour or so, and we would. I mean, looking back, it probably could have worked. Just hang out
because there's no sound, you can't hear it.
Can't hear the sound. Looking back, it might have worked. We could have probably pulled it up. But
okay.
Luckily for us, the solar eclipse happened, and with the family coming down, we were able to make it happen. But also, there was one gem about the solar eclipse that I didn't even think about. This actually happened in church the other day when they were talking about everyone was focused on this solar eclipse, right? They were planning for it, like your family came down, they were prepared for it. And some people were like, what happened is it happens. They were talking about the different perspectives of that event happening. There were people who planned the entire year around being in the right place, which was Dallas, Texas.
Because they knew from 6-7 years ago where it was going to be.
Right time, the location. Your aunt literally flew down to be in Dallas, which is going to be the epicenter of it in the U.S., I guess, right? And for us, it was like we didn't really care. We flew out.
When she mentioned it to me, I'm like, what? I never heard of this. Is this? She's like, what? Where are you living?
I didn't know that people planned and they traveled and they made things like that, and the traffic in Dallas was crazy. But we actually flew out, and when the eclipse happened, it didn't happen in Vegas.
It didn't happen in Vegas, so we had no idea.
We didn't know the time. We didn't know when it happened. We didn't get to experience it. But
we saw pictures.
We were talking like you can't really experience what was here, and that's the problem. We were talking about the perspective of just being a passerby in life. There were people who planned for that event, who showed up for the event to make sure they were in the right place, right time for an event that happens once in a lifetime or once every whatever the years are, and there were people who were in the same place, same time that didn't even notice it happening. So how can we slow down to ensure that we are taking in the sights that are around us, right? So that was another gem about the eclipse. So God made the eclipse happen. He also made it happen for us to get on that podcast.
Made it happen for us, because if not, baby. But yes, thank you, God, as usual. The fourth thing that we had when it came to this experience is keep sharing your story. We were found just by sharing our story on social media for the last 7 years. So yes, I know in this day and age, it may not take you 7 years, especially with TikTok. People go viral all the time, but sometimes they can't remain consistent with it. But we've been sharing for the past 7 years. And so we asked them, how did you find us? And she said, well, we were looking, because there was another cleaning business owner there. We didn't get to connect with her, though. But she was like, we were looking for another cleaning business owner. She was like, you guys weren't hard to find. I searched on you, put you guys on YouTube, and I found you guys right away. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. Because we've been doing this podcast for over 2 years, but it's not like we have tons of accolades on the podcast. And it's always, thankful that someone is listening.
It's not an award-winning podcast.
Right. It's not an award-winning podcast.
Not yet. Put that in the atmosphere. Not yet.
But we know that you guys subscribe. We know that you guys write reviews. And those are ways that we know that someone is listening, or based on the downloads and things like that. But for them to find us in that way, it kind of is like, just keep putting it out there. It don't got to be perfect. If you see our first YouTube videos from when we started to now, and then when we look back in a year or two, so on and so forth, it don't got to be perfect, but the information is just the same that we're saying, regardless of how it looks. So shout out to them for finding us, and shout out to us for being consistent for 7 years on social media.
Yeah, keep sharing your story, people. It's funny because I just recently posted a video, one of our first YouTube videos on a podcast, and it was about us paying off our debt, because you realize there are people out there who don't even know where you started at.
Yeah.
And I always say, find out more about the person, where they started, versus trying to find out where they are today. Where did they start before you followed them? What were they doing before you followed them? What were they doing before you bought something from them? Find out more about the person, the individual, the family, the coach, whatever it is. Find out what they were doing before you decided to work with them, so that you can see more of a well-rounded view of them. So I posted that video, and that was one of our highest viewed videos recently. I was like, oh, this video was on the iPhone
Looking down.
And if you guys are on YouTube, we got a 3-camera setup here right now. And we didn't have a 3-camera setup. We had an iPhone.
Have a 1-camera setup.
We had an iPhone sitting in front of us, and we're recording a video. And I recently posted that video because my friend Andre was like, yo, post your old stuff. Like, you never know who's going to find it. So remaining consistent, but then also keep sharing your story is super important, guys, so that you never know where it may take you. There is someone out there that's looking to find out more about something that you know, something that you've gone through, something that you've accomplished, something that you've learned, but you don't know until you get there. So stop being selfish with the information that you have and start sharing.
Yeah, I agree. Just keep sharing your story. And the last thing we had here was just, it's really mind-blowing of the little idea that we had of the cleaning business, what it's allowed us to do and where it's brought us today, right? We would have never considered that when we started this back in 2017, about 6.5, 7 years ago, that we would be on any platform, first of all, let alone a platform like Jobber, but any platform speaking about the cleaning business, that we would be anywhere teaching people how to do this and changing their life and generational wealth, or that we would have rental properties because of this, so on and so forth, that we'd be traveling the world because of it. So that little idea, get started on it and do it as you grow, right? A lot of times we want it to be perfect before we get started and things like that. Yes, there may be some foundation you want to have or need to have in place, but make the mistakes. That's part of the process, right? That's part of you growing. That's part of the business growing. That's part of you learning. And that's what helped to bring us here today. Something to happen? You keep looking at me.
No, I was listening to you.
Oh, okay.
Get started, get fancy later. Don't try to figure it out all. And that's me just putting my own advice out there too, because I think at this stage it was a lot easier to get started when we was earlier, because it's like nobody's looking. And then you get some people looking, and then you start holding back more because you want things to be perfect, and it kind of slows you down. But I would rather us do something, take the action, figure it out along the way, and then if it doesn't work, hey, you go back, you make adjustments, and you learn as you grow. Some people call it building the parachute while you jump out the plane. Now, I'm not
okay. Let's not take that.
If the plane realistically, listen, don't take that.
I ain't doing that part now.
Don't take it literally, but that's what they call it, building a parachute. As you jump out the plane, so that you're gonna move faster. You're gonna react faster. You're gonna make adjustments faster when you're out the plane and you're trying to figure it out, versus when you just sit on the plane and you got all the time to build a parachute. How you gonna know if it works or not until you jump out?
Let's change this analogy. But we do just want to thank Jobber for the opportunity. And when those podcasts come out, we'll be sure to tag it. We'll probably put it on our platforms ourselves. And to any other company that is listening, I think we are great candidates to speak on the cleaning business and anything else, really. We have a lot that we speak about, not just the cleaning business.
One episode was mainly about the cleaning business, and the other was about building generational wealth for your family. Some things we're doing for Alani, and then our second kid on the way. So one was about the cleaning and one wasn't. We talked about marriage, talked about relationship, talked about